because we know that you get beat up every day. That's why we're here to make you happy. We're going to help you see what God is doing, because you know what? If you don't get the news from heaven's perspective, you're going to just hear the outputs from hell talking to you all day long. We're going to give you the heavenly perspective. First of all, breaking news. The traditional pardoning of the turkey ceremony on the White House lawn was delayed because the Turkey was denied presidential pardon after photos emerged of it attending the January 6th insurrection. And for those of you that can't see this on the podcast, we have a turkey here with a MAGA hat on that was attending the January 6th.
In the crowd.
Right there in the crowd shot next to the Florida flag.
So funny.
Well, it's unfortunate that is, we don't know the difference between, what's funny is I can never tell Babylon Bee. I have to tell people this is satire, because sometimes I post these things like on Facebook and people actually, they take them seriously. Anyway, they had a great one about Jesus being a Christian nationalist.
Oh, yeah.
That's I'll have to show. I'll share that one tomorrow for you. But actually, there is some interesting news here. I want you to hear, in the midst of the obvious questions about the midterm elections, like, how is it that we are still waiting? We're still trying to figure out what the count is for all these congressional seats. A deliberate plan by Democrats to delay the organization and momentum of the so-called red wave. Now, you know what? If it all came in overnight, there'd be less pessimism, because it wouldn't be a 5-seat margin, it'd be a lot larger. We're still counting votes. Why is that? I want to hear what Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida, has to say, and I think you'll find this eye-popping.
Week, but we actually had another hurricane come through in the other part of the state, Nicole, so you guys understand that. And how is it that the state of Florida, the Monday before the election, we could declare a state of emergency for Nicole, conduct an election, count like 7.7 million votes by midnight. Next morning, we're at the EOC, storm hits, you have washouts of A1A, other parts. We repair that by the weekend, and these other states are still counting their votes from the election. How pathetic is that? I'm joined here by our Senate President, Kathleen Pasadena.
Well, he's making a point, and everybody ought to be asking the same question. How is it that 7.7 million people in a state, which is surviving a hurricane and then anticipating another one, gets the vote in by midnight, and we're still goofing around waiting for the counts and the recounts? You go into the Bible where it says that because lawlessness increases, the love of many waxes cold. There's a certain sociological impact you have. When you see injustice, you stop believing in the system. And when you do that, you stop trusting. When you stop trusting, you stop building for a nation or for a community as every man for himself, because you think the system's corrupt. And that's exactly what the Democrats are succeeding in doing, and the Republicans are letting them get away with it because they're as bad as the Democrats.
I would agree. I want to come back to a different concept, too, is just this idea of trying to rob people of hope. And I think that that's really what we're up against, that even our people, Christians, are becoming hopeless, that it's not going to change. And if the devil can take your hope from you, he can take your faith from you, because faith is the substance of things hoped for. So you don't have the power to move mountains if you don't have faith, and if you can't have faith without hope. So do not let the media narrative and discouragement rob you from imagining the hope of an alternate reality.
I'm going to give you an example. Do you guys still have in the production room there, do you have that graphic that we used in an earlier broadcast? I want to get the one up that Mercedes brought to us, because the narrative that we're hearing all over the country is that, well, Donald Trump was a drag. Donald Trump really failed. Donald Trump is the problem. Donald Trump, blah, 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 blah. What do we have here, Mercedes? For those of you that aren't able to see this because you're listening to the podcast, tell the people about Donald Trump's failure rate with the midterms.
I mean, this last election in 2022, he did 495 endorsements, more than he's ever done before. And his success rate in the general election was 82%, meaning of those 495, 82% won office. Every year below that, it's a lower number. So let's go back to the larger elections, the House races. 2022, he had 303 total endorsements with a 78% success rate.
No, not 2022, 2020.
2020, I'm sorry, 2020,
right.
Thanks, is 303 and 78% success rate in the general election. In 2018.
All right, so let me just zero in this for a second.
I'm trying to help help the people on the podcast.
I know when it was the presidential election, he got 78% of the people he endorsed. He pulled them over the finish line. In the 2022, in the year that everyone, including Christians, are saying, well, I don't know, I think that Trump maybe is wearing people out. 82% success rate.
Yeah. That's why I'm saying I really think it's a media drive-by hit job. This is what Rush would have called out. This, to me, this narrative of Trump's a loser, he's picking losers, and nobody wants to be a loser. This narrative that's being drummed up in the media right now reminds me of 2016 when you had George Clooney saying Trump's never going to be president. You have Hillary laughing at it, that Trump will never be president. He's going to cause World War III. He's never going to win. I mean, it was just everywhere, this narrative. And people got downtrodden then. I mean, but we came out and we voted in 2016. And so this is the new thing. This is, and I am just, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. The Republican establishment is in arms with this media narrative that Trump picked losers. One, they were bad candidates, and two, they weren't funded. And let's look at his overall average is better than any year past. So let's squash this narrative.
Hey, speaking of years ago, sounds strange, but I got to share this with you. So, I used to have these candies when I grew up. I go to the movies like Milk Duds and this stuff. And all of a sudden I see these candies are in my office, and I'm asking Mercedes, I go, how in the world could they keep this stuff in storage and have them available like in a museum of candies from the 60s and 70s when I grew up? But show them what this is. This is crazy.
I like how you get Chelsea and I confused, because you had this conversation with Chelsea, not with me, but that's okay. So this is all of these old time candies, and it's really fun because you can get it for like any decade, 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, all the way through the 90s. But they have old stuff like, what is this? Razzles. What are they?
Hold them up. Hold up the ones that are those wax containers.
This thing?
You remember these things, guys? These wax ones where you bite into them and like they have the juice in it, and the wax doesn't even have any flavor. It's just wax.
Then there's these lips.
Oh, the lips. Do you remember their lips? You put them on your mouth, and then you bite into them and chew them.
Goodness. I'm trying to find because some of this stuff we saw, I don't know what these are. Boston baked beans. Do you know what that
baked
is?
beans. How about the dots? You got the dots over there?
I don't know what these are.
Oh, these are hilarious. Remember these guys? When you peel them off, and sometimes the paper would stick to it, and it didn't matter because you just chewed the paper with the candy.
Okay, and here's something really uncouth we wouldn't have anymore today. But, oh, wait, here we go. Candy cigarettes.
Oh, those. Remember they have little red color on the end, so it looks like it's lit, and you put it in your mouth, and you like chew on the cigarette. They don't have them anymore.
Some of this stuff has been around forever, though. I mean, like some of these things.
So I said they've been around forever. I said,
you know what? Today's
payday. So I said to my staff, I said, but who would eat these? You're like 40 years old.
And Chelsea's like, Lance, it's not like it's freeze dried. They didn't find this in a basement somewhere and sell it to you. They remade them.
Oh, they remade them. Okay. So if you want, and it's the same ingredients, I assume.
I would think so. At least the same recipe, I would think.
It has to be. So this may sound strange, but if you want to get your spouse, someone to trip down memory lane.
Totally.
You want to be able to look at what's it called again?
This is called the old time candy. And so you can get it if you want to get something, especially for like Christmas is coming, lancewallnau.com/candy.
Yes,
so it's a good time.
My Annabelle's gluten-free might not be celebrating.
I can hear her voice like, this is a sugar show. What are you guys doing?
This is a sugar show. She'll lecture me on that. All right, folks. I just want to let you know about that because it's a novelty item in my office. Now, be optimistic because what Mercedes said is true. We did see Roe v. Wade. By the way, people are also saying that was a reason why the election, the midterms didn't go well. But if you listen to Terry Schilling, and I got to get that video. I'm going to get that video clip to play for you. He points out that 14 out of 18 candidates that were strong on life all got elected. That the problem is when you don't push back on the left and say, yes, I'm for life, and what are you for? Because 70% of even the Democrat voters aren't for late-term abortion. So you see, 80% actually. So you have to position this in terms of, here's what I say, here's what they say. Now, what do you say? The majority of people are not for this pagan
dismembering
of
children.
of children in the womb. They are not into it.
Yeah. Hey, do you what's the deal with the right to, like, the Preserve Marriage Act? Are you up to date on that?
Yeah, well, all right. That's a whole other subject. We're going to cover that in the next podcast. We're already over by a couple minutes. I'm going to go into that because you need to know what the story is on the latest compromise in Washington that is no compromise for Christians at all. It's drawing the net tighter and tighter around who gets persecuted and who doesn't get persecuted over the LGBTQ agenda going mainstream. But that'll be another broadcast. We're going to end this one on the opposite note, which is inch by inch. Remember this, it was by perseverance that the snail made it into the ark, and we're getting there. See you tomorrow. Oh boy, this episode was so hot, YouTube and Facebook might not be able to handle it. So go to lancewallnau.com/